Captain Sofia Ramirez had once been the pride of her squadron. Her name echoed across Naval Air Station Hamilton as the pilot who could make her F-35 dance through the skies with impossible precision. But pride often comes at a cost. 3 weeks ago, her brilliance had been eclipsed by controversy. She had defied a direct order during a mission over Syria, a move that saved 12 soldiers' lives, but branded her reckless in the eyes of her superiors. Colonel Robert Harris had delivered the punishment himself. His words still rang in her mind like the echo of a gavel. Captain Ramirez, your flying disregarded the chain of command. You are hereby grounded until further notice. Now her aircraft sat locked away in Hangar 7, its sleek body hidden beneath tarps like a monument to wasted potential. Every day she walked past it, her boots striking the tarmac with hollow rhythm, and every day she felt the ache of betrayal, not by her comrades, but by the very system she had dedicated her life to serve. The base roared with life around her. Jets thundered overhead in tight formations, their afterburners scorching trails across the sky. Ground crews bustled across the runways, shouting instructions, hauling cables, fueling machines that lived and breathed war. These were the sounds Sofia once lived for, the rhythm of her existence. Now they were cruel reminders that she was no longer part of the symphony. From the observation deck, she often watched her old squadron preparing for missions. She could see them laughing together, trading jokes, slapping helmets before takeoff. Their camaraderie was something she once carried like armor, but now it felt like glass pressed against her skin. And there, beneath the shadows of her grounded jet, lay the bitter irony. The maneuver that earned her punishment had been the same one that brought 12 young soldiers back from a kill zone alive. But rules were rules, and in the unforgiving machinery of military order, there was little room for improvisation. Admiring the view again, a familiar voice asked. Sofia turned to see Lieutenant Commander Emma Brooks walking toward her, 2 steaming cups of coffee in hand. Emma was one of the few who still spoke to her openly. Most others avoided her like she carried some contagious stain. But Emma, loyal, stubborn Emma, always found a way to bridge the silence. "Just watching my plane collect dust," Sofia replied, accepting the cup. She forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "And watching everyone else fly missions I should be leading." Emma leaned on the railing beside her, sipping slowly. "You know, some of us think what you did in Syria was exactly what had to be done. If you hadn't acted, Alpha Squad would have been slaughtered." Sofia's jaw tightened. "Tell that to the review board. They already made their judgment." "Doesn't change what really happened," Emma said softly. But Sofia knew that the truth often mattered less than the perception. She had relived the mission endlessly in her mind. The intel had been wrong. Alpha Squad had stumbled into an ambush far deadlier than expected. Standard orders instructed her to hold position and wait for artillery support, but the trapped soldiers didn't have 20 minutes to wait. So she had chosen differently. She remembered the dive, nose of the F-35 pitched nearly vertical, the wind shrieking against the canopy, her hand steady on the controls. She had flown so close to her own side's positions it seemed impossible, raining precision fire onto the enemy dug into the high ground. The maneuver was flawless. The ambush collapsed. 12 lives were saved. But the report wrote it differently. Reckless flying, disobedience of command, unnecessary risk to a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And now, here she stood, an outcast in the very family she had sworn to serve. Her thoughts were broken by the sudden appearance of Staff Sergeant Michael Turner, jogging across the deck with urgency written on his face. His voice cut through the hum of the airfield. "Captain Ramirez, the colonel requests you in the briefing room. Immediate." Sofia frowned. "Sergeant, I'm not cleared for flight duty. I'm still grounded." "Colonel Harris's orders, ma'am," Michael said firmly. "He specifically asked for you." Sofia exchanged a quick glance with Emma, who shrugged with raised brows. Whatever this was, it wasn't routine. Harris didn't bend protocol without cause. As Sofia followed Michael toward command headquarters, her pulse quickened. She had no idea why she was being summoned, but a single truth hammered in her chest. Emergency briefings meant live operations, real missions, real stakes. And if they were calling her back in, Something was very, very wrong. The briefing room buzzed with restless energy as Sophia stepped inside. Every pilot was there, shoulder to shoulder with intelligence officers, mission planners, and comms specialists. The air carried the weight of urgency, thick with the knowledge that whatever had brought them together was no ordinary assignment. At the front stood Colonel Robert Harris. Normally, he carried himself with controlled authority, his voice calm and his posture rigid. Today, however, his face betrayed something else, worry that teetered on the edge of panic. It was the first time Sophia had seen him so visibly unsettled. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his tone clipped but heavy, "we are facing a crisis that demands immediate response." A large tactical map of Afghanistan flickered onto the main screen, its contours marked with red indicators, like wounds on the landscape. Harris's words came in a steady rhythm, each syllable hammering into the room. At 0347 this morning, a diplomatic convoy moving through Kandahar province was ambushed by hostile forces. 2 high-value figures were taken alive. A sharp murmur swept through the crowd. Pilots leaned forward, planners exchanged glances. The stakes had suddenly crystallized. "The captured personnel," Harris continued, "are General Evelyn Carter, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and General Thomas Blake, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander. Both were conducting a covert inspection of forward bases when their convoy was overrun." Sophia felt the atmosphere shift. Losing 2 senior generals was more than a tactical loss. It was a national catastrophe in the making. In enemy hands, Carter and Blake weren't just valuable hostages. They were political leverage and propaganda gold. "Initial recovery attempts have failed," Harris said grimly. 2 helicopters and 1 F-16 have already been shot down by surface-to-air missile systems guarding the compound where the generals are being held. The enemy has fortified the site with overlapping fire zones. Standard approaches have been neutralized. On the map, red arcs fanned outward, representing layers of defense. It was a fortress built into the mountains, its terrain naturally favoring the defenders. Any conventional strike would bleed out before it reached the target. "Sir," Major John Daniels, the squadron's most seasoned pilot, interjected, "what's the operational directive here? Are we attempting rescue or containment?" Harris's eyes locked on him. "Rescue is the only acceptable outcome. Intelligence confirms both generals are alive, but they will be transferred to another location within 6 hours. That window is all we have." The room fell silent. 6 hours. A near impenetrable defense. The odds stretched thinner with every passing second. Sophia's gaze tracked the map, her mind racing ahead of the conversation. She saw the same obstacles everyone else saw: missile batteries, choke points, narrow canyons locked down by fire. But she also saw possibilities hidden in the margins, angles the others dismissed as suicide. Without clearance, she rose to her feet. "Sir," she said, her voice cutting through the quiet, "what if we abandon the standard playbook?" Every head turned. The suggestion was dangerous, especially from her, the grounded pilot branded reckless. Harris's eyes narrowed. "Explain, Captain." "The defenses are designed to counter traditional attack vectors," Sophia said. "Straight runs, high-altitude bombing, predictable flight paths. But if an aircraft used the terrain itself for cover, riding the canyons until the last second, it could slip beneath their radar and dismantle the main defenses before they could react." Daniel scoffed. "You mean tearing through mountain canyons at near supersonic speeds? That margin for error is 0. Sophia met his skepticism with fire. "The margin is already 0, Major. Those generals die unless we try something different." The room thickened with silence again. Harris studied her, his jaw rigid, weighing not just the words, but the pilot speaking them. She was still under review, still officially unfit to fly. Yet she had voiced the one idea that broke through the wall of impossibility. "Captain Ramirez," he said finally, "you're proposing a maneuver that risks both pilot and aircraft at extreme levels. If you fail, 2 of the nation's top leaders die, and so do you." Sophia didn't flinch. "Sir, if we follow convention, they're already dead. At least this way, we give them a fighting chance." Harris dismissed the room. Everyone else, continue mission planning. Captain Ramirez, step outside. She followed him into the hallway, the door shutting heavily behind them. For a long moment, Harris simply looked at her, searching her expression as if trying to peel away the layers of defiance and conviction. "That dive in Syria," he said at last, his voice quieter. "Was it truly necessary, or just showing off?" The question cut straight into her core. She had replayed that moment endlessly, trying to justify it even to herself. "Sir," she said firmly. "In that moment, under fire, it was the only way those soldiers lived. I would make the same call again." Harris's eyes hardened, but something softened at the edges. "And this mission? Can you fly what you're suggesting without killing yourself?" "I can't promise survival," Sophia admitted, "but I can promise that if no one attempts it, those generals will not live. And yes, I believe I'm the one who can pull it off." She saw the hesitation linger in him, the battle between protocol and necessity. If he approved her, he risked his own career as much as hers. But if he refused, he might carry the weight of 2 generals' deaths. Sophia spoke again, quieter now. "Sir, I've spent 3 weeks grounded, watching others fly routine sorties. I've been running scenarios in my head every day, thinking of what this jet can really do. I know its limits better than anyone in this squadron, and I know how to push them." For a long beat, Harris said nothing. Then slowly, he nodded. "Very well. Captain Ramirez, prepare yourself. You're about to lead the most dangerous mission of your life." Back inside the briefing room, the announcement fell like a thunderclap. "Change of plans," Colonel Harris declared. "Captain Ramirez will lead a single aircraft precision strike to dismantle the compound defenses and clear the path for extraction." The room rippled with disbelief. Pilots exchanged startled glances. Some whispered under their breath. Others stared openly at Sophia. The grounded flyer, the one branded reckless, was now being given the most critical mission any of them had ever seen. "Sir," Major Daniels protested, his voice tense but respectful. "With due respect, Captain Ramirez is still under disciplinary review." Harris's eyes swept the room like a blade. "Major Daniels, Captain Ramirez is also the only pilot who has demonstrated the precision flying required for this operation. The review is suspended, effective immediately." Sophia felt the weight of a dozen pairs of eyes boring into her. She could sense the mixture of emotions, doubt, envy, curiosity, maybe even admiration hidden beneath the skepticism. But none of it mattered. The mission wasn't about reputations or rivalries. It was about 2 generals whose lives ticked down with every passing minute. "You have 15 minutes to review mission specs and prepare for launch," Harris ordered. "Your jet is being readied as we speak." 15 minutes. That was all. Sophia moved quickly, her eyes locked on the tactical displays. The map glowed with topography lines and defense markers. Her brain processed vectors, flight altitudes, wind currents, and missile ranges at lightning speed. She traced the narrow canyon on the eastern side, a gap others had dismissed as impassable. To her, it wasn't just a gap. It was a doorway, one only she could thread. As the room emptied, she stood alone with the enormity of what lay ahead. This was no longer about clearing her name. It was about proving that when rules failed, courage could still win. The hangar smelled of jet fuel and machine oil, a scent that had always filled Sophia with purpose. Her F-35 no longer lay dormant beneath tarps. Now it was alive with motion. Mechanics swarmed over it, checking systems, securing munitions, calibrating targeting pods. Chief Petty Officer Ramirez, no relation, though the coincidence always amused her, approached, wiping grease from his hands. His eyes gleamed with quiet pride. "Captain, we've armed her with precision-guided munitions, tuned specifically for your strike profile. Every system's at peak. She's ready for you." Sophia ran her gloved hand across the aircraft's smooth frame. "How's she looking, Chief?" He smiled, like she's been waiting 3 weeks, just for this moment. She climbed into the cockpit, sliding into the seat that felt like an extension of her own body. The canopy closed with a hiss, cocooning her in the glow of instruments and displays. The systems hummed to life, wrapping her in a symphony of digital awareness. For 3 weeks, she had watched from the sidelines. Now, at last, she was where she belonged. Not on the ground, but in the sky. Tower, this is Ghost 7 requesting immediate clearance for departure, she called. Ghost 7, you are cleared for takeoff. Godspeed, Captain. The jet surged forward, engines roaring with power, and leapt into the air. The force pressed her into her seat, a familiar and intoxicating sensation. The flight to Afghanistan stretched across 2 long hours, but her mind never wandered. She reviewed every piece of intel, rehearsed each maneuver in her imagination, and built the rhythm of the mission in her head. Every second mattered. Every choice could mean the difference between life and death. At 30,000 feet, she listened as command fed her updates. The enemy had reinforced further. New missile sites had been confirmed, hidden in the mountain ridges. The defenses were even tighter than the initial briefing suggested. Ghost 7, this is Overwatch, the comms officer reported. Target zone now in range. Advise extreme caution. SAM coverage is denser than expected. Copy, Overwatch, Sophia replied. Her voice was steady, her pulse racing. Beginning approach phase. She dropped altitude rapidly, plunging from the safety of the open sky into the twisting embrace of the mountains. At 500 feet, she weaved through valleys and ridges, her radar signature swallowed by the terrain. The compound sat ahead, a fortress built into stone, every approach guarded by firepower. But Sophia had not chosen the obvious routes. Her eyes fixed on the slim canyon. The passage others said was suicide. Overwatch, Ghost 7 commencing run, she transmitted. She dove into the canyon, the walls rushing past her wingtips with terrifying closeness. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. Every twitch of the controls, every adjustment, had to be perfect. Seconds stretched like hours. Then, with a roar, she burst from the canyon's mouth, directly behind the compound's primary missile batteries. The enemy never saw her coming. She fired. Precision-guided munitions streaked toward their targets, detonating in perfect sequence. Explosions ripped across the ridgeline, tearing apart the missile systems that had claimed so many aircraft before her. Overwatch, Ghost 7, she reported calmly, though her chest heaved. Primary defenses neutralized. The mission had only just begun. The valley erupted the moment Sophia's missile struck. The once calm compound came alive with chaos. Alarms blared, fighters scrambled, and hostile troops poured from bunkers like ants defending a nest. The destruction of their prized air defenses had shocked them, but the battle was far from won. Overwatch, Ghost 7, Sophia called, her voice calm though her pulse hammered. Defenses destroyed. Moving to extraction phase. Copy, Ghost 7. Rescue Team 1 is en route. Secure their path. She pulled the F-35 into a tight arc, circling above the compound. From this vantage, she could see the entire storm below. Enemy troops raced to reposition, dragging heavy weapons into place, while smoke and fire rose in thick columns from the craters she had carved. In the center of it all stood the target building, a reinforced structure ringed by guards. That was where Generals Carter and Blake were being held. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Every strike had to be surgical. A single mistake could collapse the building or kill the very people she was here to save. Her targeting suite locked onto enemy clusters. She released a burst of precision fire, each round finding its mark with chilling accuracy. One squad fell, then another, until the immediate perimeter began to weaken. Ghost 7, we confirm both HVTs inside the eastern structure, Overwatch reported. Rescue team approaching from the south. Keep their entry clear. Understood, Sophia replied. She tightened her grip on the controls. From the east, she spotted movement. A squad of hostile fighters setting up rocket launchers on a rooftop. If those weapons fired, the incoming rescue helicopters would be torn from the sky. She banked sharply, angled down, and let her weapons speak. Precision rounds shredded the rooftop, scattering bodies and debris. The rockets detonated harmlessly in the blast. Rescue Team 1, this is Ghost 7. Rooftop threats neutralized. Path clear. Copy that, Ghost 7, came the crisp reply from the helicopter team. We're on final approach." Her jet roared overhead, the sound of its engines echoing like a thunderclap across the mountains. Below, enemy reinforcements tried desperately to regroup. Trucks rolled in from side roads, spewing more fighters into the fray. Sophia's radar lit up with hostile signatures converging fast. She felt the pressure close in, the sky narrowing with each second. But her focus never wavered. Every move had to be calculated, every strike a scalpel's cut. Ghost 7, be advised. Overwatch warned. Enemy armor moving into the compound. And there it was, armored vehicles rumbling into position, heavy cannons swiveling upward. If they entrenched, the rescue attempt would collapse. Sophia inhaled sharply, then acted. She dropped low, skimming the ground so close she could almost feel the heat of the burning structures below. With a squeeze of her trigger, her jet spat guided munitions directly into the armored column. Explosions rolled through the valley like a chain reaction, the shock waves rattling her cockpit. "Overwatch, armor destroyed," she reported, her voice clipped. "Rescue Team 1, compound perimeter clear," the comms officer confirmed. The helicopter swept in, skimming just above the treetops before plunging into the compound. From her vantage point, Sophia could see the silhouettes of Special Operations soldiers fast roping down, their movements quick and lethal. They surged toward the eastern structure, weapons flashing as they carved a path to the building. Sophia circled overhead, her eyes locked on the wider perimeter. The enemy was regrouping beyond the compound walls, racing to reinforce. Trucks, technicals, even more squads sprinting through the dust. Her targeting system blinked with multiple threats. She engaged without hesitation. Missiles streaked down, detonating with brutal precision. Enemy reinforcements were torn apart before they could mount an effective counterattack. Still, the resistance didn't break. From the north, a squadron of hostile technicals mounted with anti-air guns opened fire, the sky filling with tracer rounds that arced dangerously close to her jet. Sophia jerked the F-35 into evasive maneuvers, her body pressed hard against the seat as G-forces clawed at her. Alarms blared in her helmet, warning of incoming fire. But she didn't retreat. She rolled her jet, locked onto the vehicles below, and rained fire down. The technicals exploded one by one, the valley shaking under the violence of her assault. Ghost 7, area secure. Overwatch confirmed. Rescue team reports they're inside the target structure. Sophia exhaled, just briefly, before scanning again. This was the critical moment. The generals were being located. Any misstep could doom them. Minutes felt like hours. Then, the voice of the rescue commander cut through the comms. "Overwatch, Rescue 1. We have both packages. Generals Carter and Blake secured, preparing for extraction." Relief surged through Sophia like a wave, but the mission wasn't over. If anything, this was the most dangerous stage. The enemy would throw everything at preventing the helicopters from leaving. "Ghost 7, maintain Overwatch," command ordered. "Copy," Sophia replied. Her eyes tracked every movement, every shadow across the compound. She saw figures scrambling into position with shoulder-fired missiles, and instantly angled her jet to intercept. Precision strikes silenced them before they could fire. Rescue 1 departing. Came the transmission. The helicopters lifted, carrying the generals, their rotors whipping up dust and debris. Sophia shadowed them from above, her jet a guardian angel with wings of fire. Every approaching threat was met with her wrath, her missiles burning through the night sky like falling stars. "Overwatch, Rescue 1. The commander's voice came steady but urgent. "We are clear of the compound. Moving to exfil coordinates." "Copy, Rescue 1. Sophia responded. "I've got your cover all the way home." As the valley receded behind her, Sophia realized what they had achieved. Two of the most powerful military leaders on Earth had just been plucked from death's grip because she had dared to fly the impossible path. But there was no time to celebrate. Ahead lay the long flight home, and whatever judgment awaited her on the ground. The flight back to base was quieter than Sophia expected. No alarms, no blaring warnings, just the steady hum of her F-35 carrying her through the night sky. Below, The helicopters carrying Generals Carter and Blake cut through the darkness, their rotors thundering steadily. She shadowed them from above, ever vigilant, scanning for threats that might still emerge from the ridgelines. Ghost 7, this is Rescue 1. The helicopter commander called over the radio. Both packages secure. We owe you our lives. Sophia allowed herself a faint smile. Keep them safe. I'll make sure nothing touches you. She remained overhead, the silent guardian, watching every radar blip, every heat signature. A few small bands of enemy fighters attempted pursuit, but they never made it close. A single precision strike erased them before they could even cross into firing range. The enemy had been humiliated, their defenses torn apart, their hostages taken back. The convoy pressed on toward the extraction zone. Finally, Command's voice came through. Rescue 1, Ghost 7. You are clear to return to base. Mission success. Those two words, mission success, filled the cockpit with a weight that almost made Sophia's chest ache. 3 weeks of punishment, endless whispers branding her reckless. And tonight, the same daring instincts that had condemned her had brought 2 generals back alive. She tightened her grip on the controls. For the first time in weeks, she felt whole again. When the base runway came into view, the ground was already alive with motion. Lights cut through the darkness, trucks lined the tarmac, and personnel gathered in tight clusters. Word had spread. Everyone knew what had happened. Tower, this is Ghost 7 requesting clearance to land. Ghost 7, you are cleared to land. Welcome home, Captain. Her jet touched down with flawless precision, wheels kissing the runway with the grace of a dancer. The roar of the engine faded as she slowed to a halt. The canopy hissed open, and the cool night air rushed in. Sophia pulled off her helmet, unfastened the harness, and climbed down the ladder. Waiting for her at the foot of the jet was Colonel Harris, his face unreadable in the glow of the floodlights. Around him stood the squadron, their eyes fixed on her with a mixture of awe, disbelief, and respect. Captain Ramirez, Harris said, his voice sharp but not unkind. Mission report. Sophia stood at attention. Sir, both targets rescued. Enemy defenses eliminated. No friendly losses sustained. Harris nodded slowly. 3 weeks ago, I grounded you for reckless flying that endangered American lives. Yes, sir, Sophia answered evenly. And today, that same flying saved 2 American generals. Silence followed. The squadron waited, their anticipation heavy in the air. Harris's eyes bored into hers, weighing every word. The military, he continued, needs pilots who can follow orders, who respect the chain of command. But it also needs those who can step beyond protocol when the situation demands it. That balance is rare, Captain, and dangerous. Sophia held his gaze, her expression steady. I understand, sir. Do you? Harris asked. Because reckless heroism cannot be the standard. What you achieved today was extraordinary, but extraordinary cannot be repeated every mission. If it is, it becomes luck, not skill. Sophia nodded. Sir, I'll take that risk when it means bringing our people home. For a moment, Harris said nothing. Then, finally, he exhaled and straightened. Captain Ramirez, you are reinstated to full flight status. Effective immediately. Your disciplinary review is closed, with official commendation for exceptional performance under extreme pressure. The squadron stirred, whispers rippling through the gathered pilots. Sophia felt the words sink in. She was no longer the grounded pariah. She was a pilot again, trusted, recognized, restored. Thank you, sir, she said quietly. Don't thank me yet, Harris replied. From now on, you'll be leading advanced tactical training for this squadron. You'll teach others the precision flying you demonstrated tonight. But you'll also take extra coursework on proper protocol. If you're going to push the limits, you'll do it with discipline. Sophia allowed herself a small smile. Understood, sir. I'll work on my paperwork skills. Harris's mouth twitched, almost a smile of his own. See that you do. Dismissed. As she walked away from the jet, the squadron parted to let her through. Some clapped her shoulder. Others offered nods of respect. Emma Brooks was there too, eyes bright with relief and pride. You did it, Sophia, Emma whispered. Sophia didn't reply. She didn't need to. She glanced back once at her F-35, still gleaming under the hangar lights. For weeks, it had sat like a caged beast, grounded just as she was. Tonight, both had been unleashed, and both had proven they belonged in the sky. The mission would never appear in headlines. Official reports would reduce it to smooth coordination between air and ground forces, names stripped away, details buried in classified files. But Sophia would carry the truth in her heart. When no one else dared, she had flown into the storm and brought Americans home. And she knew this was only the beginning, because some pilots followed flight plans, and others carved them into the sky, one impossible maneuver at a time.